verse 8, we see God praise Job as a blameless man, a man of complete integrity, a man who fears God and stays away from evil. Now, question to you and myself, does God feel this way about? Hello, hello, hello. Hi there, Nenecherry here. You're welcome to my YouTube channel. And if it's your first time tuning in, please do like, do share as to many people as you can. Stay, subscribe, and hit the notification button so that when I upload a new video, you'll be among the first people that see my video. And I mean, you'll be part of my MVP, right? I mean, the returnees know this. They do know this. And thank you so much for the returnees. I mean, you are the ones that are keeping me going, and I tend to write a lot, and I think I'm a good writer than a speaker. So I was like, you know what, even if I'm going to use all the talents that God has given me the voice, and He has made me to write. Therefore, I'll be writing and talking. So today's lesson is on Job, and I think you have seen it on the description. And I'll be just, here and there telling you what I wrote, and hopefully somebody will learn. And my plea to you today is that you analyze your life and you check your foundation. Okay, is your foundation on friends, family, maybe your wife, your husband, friends, or maybe let's say the devil himself, or even the work? So I will begin by saying, life is like a building, and quality of each one's foundation will determine the quality of the whole. And I mean, I know that we understand this because when you use often inferior, rather when we use inferior materials, and when they are used and then they are tested, most of the times they begin to crumble. All right, and I'm just reminded of the parable that Jesus told, where he said, when he talked about the wise men building their house on the rock, and where we see that their house stood firm, and then the foolish man building his house on the sand, and his house fell flat, right? So clearly we need to check our foundation and make sure that we are building it on the rock. We are building it in a right way. And with Job was tested with a life filled with prestige, possession, and people. He was suddenly assaulted in every side, devastated, stripped down to his foundation. But his life had been built on God. God was his foundation, and he endured. So now, when we look into his story, we see that it's a gripping drama, right? Of riches to rags and then back to riches. And a picture of faith that endures, a theological treatise about suffering and divine sovereignty. As we go through the book of Job today, please, like I said earlier, let us analyze our lives and check where our foundation is. My prayer is, may you be able to say that when all is gone, I mean, we should say, when all is gone, but God is enough. Well, Job's story, when it's a Jose. All right, forgive me. Job's story is quite hectic. I mean, I'm playing around here, but it's quite hectic. No one wants to go through what Job went through, right? And we see how he stood firm, you know. And I just want to share just here and there, like painting, painting some story here and there, where I'm taken aback to a time when my young auntie lost her family in an inferno. And why I'm sharing this story, I mean, no one wants to lose their family, and especially in that manner, because even when they are sick, we still want to hold on to them. And the other reason why is for the faith that I saw that she had at the time when all this thing was happening. Instead of crying and asking God, why me? Because that's something that we are accustomed to, right? But she didn't question God, but instead she praised God. And she was thanking him for every pain, for everything that had happened. And me being on the side and being there, I was watching and I'm like, oh my goodness, how can you do this? Why are you not crying and blaming God? Why me? Or why is this thing happening? So she taught me quite a lot. Now, I want to do an acronym of some sort of Job, and I'll begin with J. J, just. And you'll find this in Job 1, verse 6 to 12. And in verse 8, we see God praise Job as a blameless man, a man of complete integrity, a man who fears God and stays away from evil. Now, question to you and myself: does God feel this way about you? Are you a man of integrity? Can God stand and say, have you seen Nene? Have you seen, my son? Um, he's a man of integrity. He's a man that worships me, in truth and in spirit. Can God say that about you? It's something that we need to think about. In verse 8 and 12, we see God permits Satan to attack Job, especially in an especially harsh manner. Although God loves us, right, believing and obeying Him does not shelter us. Okay, it doesn't shelter us from life's calamities, setbacks, strategies, and sorrow strike. Christians and non-Christian alike. But in our tests and trials, God expects us to express our faith to the world. So, my question again will be: how do you respond to your troubles? Do you ask God, why me? Or do you say, use me? Job was a model of trust and obedience to God. Now, let us look at the accuser, right? Satan himself. Satan attacked Job's motive, saying that Job was blameless, right? And had integrity only because he had no reason to turn against God. He analyzed Job's love for God because God gave him so much. And we know that Job was, I do not know if there's anyone that would have been rich than Job, be it in the Bible or even in this world. I do not know about that. But yeah, so is Satan analyzing your life? Are you unlike Job, fair weather believer? You know, you're like, you don't even know where you are. You're just lukewarm. Your leg is on the other side and the other side. And is the devil ashamed to analyze your life? And with this one, it tickles me because I'm like, oh, you must be so bad that the devil is like, I can't even analyze this one. This one, we are together. But anywho, is the devil ashamed to analyze your life because, okay, okay, no. I'm taking that back. You know, because there's some people who are just, I mean, I don't know if they're in competition with the devil. But anywho, may I also just add, maybe on a positive side, that is the devil ashamed to analyze your life because it's like Job, right? Whose faith was rooted in God to stand the storm ahead of him. We also see Saturn, right? We also see Saturn. He is accountable to God. All right, moving along, we see certain that he is accountable to God, and you see this in the chapter 1 verse 6, right, where Satan can only be at one place at a time. There are so many verses, but let me just say, read from chapter 1 to 12, like I said, right? So number one, Satan is accountable to God. Satan can only be at one place at a time. His demons aid him in his work. Okay. So, but as a created being, he is limited. That's one thing we should know. Number three, Satan cannot see into our minds or foretell the future. Just saying, if he could, he could have seen his mission would not break Job. Because if the devil could see like beyond what his plan could be at that moment, I mean, and if he knew that, oh, I'm gonna fail, then he wouldn't even try. He wouldn't even dare to do so. But because he cannot see that, showing that he's limited. All right. And our God is an all-knowing God, that he knows from the time when we were supposed to have been born and to the time when we're gonna die, to the time, he just knows everything. So the devil, he is limited. Number four, because Satan can do nothing without God's permission. We see it here clearly. God's people can never come, or rather, God's people can overcome attacks through God's power. That's if we call on Him and root ourselves in Him. And number five, God puts limitation to what Satan can do. So even as much that God permitted Satan to do whatever he wanted to do to Job, we see here God said, "But you will not take his life." So there's a limitation to what Satan can do. The conversation between God and Satan teaches us an important fact that God, he is fully aware of every attempt of Satan that he wants to make us suffer and bring difficulty upon us. While God may allow us to suffer beyond our understanding, I mean, we cannot even is it comprehend, right? He is never caught by surprise by our troubles. He is, however, always compassionate and ready to take us out of the situation. That alone should drive us to put our trust in who's greater, right? If God is able to see the thing, if God is able to see or foresee the things that are yet to come, and we're having this tempter, we're having this person, I'll call him person, we have this devil who can just do things at this moment, but he doesn't even know the outcome of it. Why would you want to base our foundation on the devil instead on God? Moving along, we go to um, O, obedient. And we find this as well in Job chapter 2 and 8. To those who know the story of Job, you will know this. This is the second test of Job. Again, Satan had to seek permission from God if he could inflict pain on Job, and yet again, God limits him not to destroy Job. For a humankind, we would say that he was pretty much destroyed. Because, I mean, from right the beginning of the story, we see how a servant comes, "Master, master, master, where your children were?" They were celebrating, and this happened. Before that one could even finish saying, and they say, "Oh, your cows, oh, your possession, oh, and whatsoever," and then now he had to be inflicted with pain, and I don't know if you've ever had a boil in your life. You've never had it. Well, hey, thank God for it. But if you've had it, you know how much it's painful. But having it, the whole body, oosh, that's so bad, man. It's really bad. So Job 2 and 8. There's a question here that I would want to leave with you and say, why was Job's wife spared when the rest of the family was killed? Something that we need to think about. Knowing how um, her reaction was at the end of it all, why was she spared when the family was being taken? Let's think about it. Maybe let's comment so that I can hear your views and understand more about this. Anyhow, I feel God wanted to show her or open her eyes in order for her to be like her husband. Instead, she tells her husband to curse God. Sometimes wives can be mean, right? But I'm glad to say not all are like that, right? That's one thing I can say. Not all are like that. Sometimes it could be because of the pressure. When somebody is experiencing something, if you want to know someone, put them in a sticky situation, put them in a place where they are tested, like their whole being is tested. That's when you know who the person is, because as long as things are rosy and whatever, someone can choose to be mean, someone can choose to be happy, someone can choose to be nice, right? But when things happen whereby they are pushed to a corner, that's when you know the character of the person, or that's when you know someone. So maybe it was because of pressure, or she also wants to be, or maybe she wanted to be heard because she feels she's been taken advantage of. So she hits where she knows it will hurt. I do not know. Let's think about it. Many people think that believing in God, right, protects them from trouble. So when calamity comes, they question God's goodness and justice. But the message of Job is that you should not give up on God, because he allows you to have bad experiences. Okay? Faith in God does not guarantee personal prosperity, and lack of faith does not guarantee troubles in this life. I don't know if you've heard this part, but can I just repeat on this, right? Faith in God does not guarantee personal prosperity, and lack of faith does not guarantee troubles in this life. If this were so, people would believe in God simply to get rich. And I mean, I don't want to, name some churches, but you know how some churches will just say, the more you give, the more you get. And even in as much as that's something that also in the Bible has been stated, but it's not in the way that they put it. It's not in the context that they put it, right? But yeah, so if it were so, then people would just what? Praise God simply just for them to get rich. God is able and capable of rescuing us from suffering, but he may also allow suffering to come. Why? I cannot comprehend it. It is for God to know. It is Saturn's strategy to get us to doubt God at exactly, rather, to doubt God at exactly this moment, right? So when you're facing something, and if your faith is not rooted in Christ, whatever comes your way will make you doubt God. It will make you question God. Because I mean, you can only question God when you don't have faith in Him, or you don't really know what's happening. Here, Job shows us a perspective broader than seeking his own personal comfort. It was always new, rather, if we always knew why we were suffering, our faith would have no room to grow. Okay, if we knew why we're suffering, I mean, then it would mean that we would have had a solution. And I mean, we even have a solution because we can pray to God to guide us and protect us and be with us through the storm, right? I'm reminded of the story of, rather, the song of Jonathan McReynolds' situation. And why I'm reminded of this is because a friend of mine, hi Donovan, there was a time when this song was playing, and I was like, man, I don't understand this, because I think it's being manipulative, in a sense that if I would like you to go listen to it, but no. I mean, even when I was saying that, I just wanted to open up a discussion. I understood how the song was going by, but when to somebody who doesn't know God, to somebody who doesn't read His Word, with what Jonathan McReynolds was singing, somebody would be like, yeah, would actually accept with me and say, yeah, I was playing manipulative way because I was trying to put it in a real world situation, right? Whereby I'm saying, I'm inviting you to my situation. Yes, I do not want you to answer. I do not want you, I do not want you to answer. I don't want you to even, when you answer, to make it in the way that I want it to be, but I'm inviting you to be in my situation. And why I was saying he was playing a manipulative, it was a manipulative way of saying it, is for the fact that you're saying, okay, I do not want this, but I want you to put yourself in my shoes. And then if you put yourself into someone's shoes and you see what they are seeing, isn't it? Then you'll be drawn to them and you'll be able to open up their hands. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So yeah, I just thought I'd bring it up. But man, that was just me trying to create a conversation. And I mean, Pastor Don, Donovan, you put me to my place. It was a very interesting lesson that we had through just a song. Okay, so moving along. B, believer. We know Job's friends came to comfort him as we get down to the chapters, right? So, in anguish and pain, his friends come for a good cause. I mean, they always come for a good cause. And they ended up trying to comfort him with words. And with this one, I think at the time when I did, there was a time when I did a video where I was talking about avoid engaging your tongue before you engage your mind, right? Sometimes we need to think, is it necessary or is it helpful when especially when somebody's in mourning or when somebody is going through quite a lot. Sometimes you just have to be there, sit there, just be quiet, and listen to your friend, or your friend will at least notice and say, "Oh, these my friends were there." Now, their words were distasteful in a sense that they ended up accusing. All right, they ended up accusing Job himself. They ended up accusing Job himself and asking him, "Hey, Job, are you sure that you did not do anything? Don't you think God is punishing you because of something that you did?" And especially, and for them to accuse him, or to end up accusing him, I think they had analyzed his life. This is a man that, at least to their perception, that he lived a righteous life. Okay, he was known for being a good man. He was known for being a child of God. Now, how is it that a child of God, a man that is upright, is having these issues? Meaning they also didn't have faith in God for them to even question him at the first of all, if we may put it this way, right? So they analyzed his life, and then it also could be because they saw the pain that their friend was going through, and now they began to wonder and say, do you think it could be because of the things that you did, or try to remember if you did something? Maybe this is why. And maybe if it were so, then I think maybe they wanted to have some sort of a solution to say, then go to God and apologize for the things that you did. So even now, even when all these things were happening, the wife asking him to curse God, his friends accusing him losing all the things that he possessed, we see Job enduring and even saying, "I know that my Redeemer lives. And even though I go through, these problems, you know, I know that when he comes, I will stand with him on that day." Are you able to say that? Are you able to say that when you know that you are in your lowest times? Or will you say that? And then clearly here, I know sometimes with Job, I'm so glad, right? I know my mind is playing popcorn with me. I'm so glad that Job's story, if you look at it into the Bible, is that it had a comeback. All right, clearly it shows, and I mean, it doesn't really have to have a comeback to every story. Some people say, "Hi man, they do not want to watch Nigerian movies in some way," but oopsie, because they'll say, "What we even know that at the beginning of the movie, if somebody was struggling, right, we know that, give it time, 2 hours later, because sometimes they drag it, so 2 hours later you start beginning to see how this person who struggled and people made fun of him, and he just becomes rich, or he becomes the important person ever that they could ever have." So I'm so glad that also in the Bible, with Job's story, at least we saw how he suffered. He went through even to a point that he would have lost his life, and then God restored him. And where they say, God gave him double than what he had. So if he had 1,000, he had to double that. If he had thousands, then so I'm thankful to God that we could also see that. But I'm also much more thankful when I read even other stories that obviously we didn't get to see the end of it, which we will see when we put our faith and our foundation in God. We'll be able now to see it clearly. That this is why people say, when you're going through something, you may not understand it now, but you're going to understand it by and by. If you don't understand it at the time when you're in this earth and living, if you are a true Christian and you're standing by the principles of God, when God comes to get his own, you'll be there, and you'll be able to look back and thank God for all the struggles that you've had. Well, that's about it for today. I hope you've learned something, and I'll encourage each one of you, the one that's watching this, to at least comment, give your views, and let us share. Let us see how you understand Job's story, and so that we can learn. Because I mean, on this channel, it's a teachable moment each and every time. But otherwise, is bye for now.